Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and we've got a YoungBoy Never Broke Again album bomb, and DJ Khaled working with Drake again, and it's Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. Fun fact, I went back through my records. I believe this is the 6th album bomb in some form that I've covered from YoungBoy Never Broke Again. Another fun fact, despite his persistently loud online fan base, these episodes never get a ton of traction for the amount of work that they require I do, which is annoying but revealing of a fan base that might be more insular, and the meme has long since transcended irony. But before we get into all that, our top 10, where for another week, Break My Soul by Beyonce holds that number 1. Mostly thanks to a revival on sales and a continued radio push to make up for the streaming that's slipping away, courtesy of a big remix with Madonna. For the record, I'm still very lukewarm on Break My Soul, and the remix certainly is not helping. But it held up over As It Was by Harry Styles at number 2, which still has good streaming and isn't really fading on the radio, which is likely why it held the edge over About Damn Time by Lizzo at number 3, which peaked on the radio and has better sales, but has never really had streaming to compete. Then we got Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush at number 4, which is still remarkably strong across the board, and it'll have to be to hold up against our newest top 10 entry, Staying Alive by DJ Khaled featuring Drake and Lil Baby. We'll get to this much later on thanks to its streaming dominance, but it's already getting a radio push, and while it might fade back a bit initially, they're gonna try to make this a thing. Y'all have been warned. Then we got a spike for Bad Habit by Steve Lacy to number 6, which got edged out on streaming, but the radio has actually a pretty solid pickup, which put it over Wait For You by Future Thames and Drake at number 7, where it can't quite compete on streaming and doesn't have enough of the wavering radio margin to rebound properly. This takes us to Sunroof by Nicki Yor and Daisy at number 8, where the radio might adore this song, but that's kind of all it really has, even if it's enough to get over First Class by Jack Harlow at number 9, which is clearly on its way out across the board. And that opens things up to our second top 10 breakthrough, Bad Decisions by Benny Blanco, BTS, and Snoop Dogg. Again, I'll talk about this a little bit more later on, but it's no surprise it's here thanks to insane sales overcompensating for everything else. Almost like there's a pattern here or something. But before we get down into that, our losers and dropouts, the latter of which is full of Beyonce, but also a couple songs where the year-end positioning, or even making the year-end list, it's gonna be tenuous, if they make it at all. Two Step by Ed Sheeran featuring Lil Baby, 1,000 Miles by The Kid Laroi, and Trouble with a Heartbreak by Jason Aldean. Then we got our losers, which were all debuts from last week. And outside of Never Sleep from Nav, Travis Scott, and Lil Baby at 87, they were all from Beyonce. So let's run through them. Alien Superstar at 43, Cuff It at 50, Church Girl at 67, Energy with Beam at 79, I'm That Girl at 92, and Cozy at 93. But what's going to fill in the gaps here? Well, alright, the only return is Vet Motors by YoungBoy Never Broke Again at 62 from the album bomb, but our gains feel really scattered. Off the debut last week, Da 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 by Nardo Wick rose up to 74, and Victoria's Secret by Jax hit 66. But off the losers, Whiskey on You by Nate Smith rebounded to 65. And the rest are just weird. Bones by Imagine Dragons went up to 70, Free Mind by Thames to 64, FNF Let's Go by Glorilla and Hit Kid at 49, and Betty Get Money by Young Gravy up big to 45. But now onto the larger matter at hand, the album bomb from YoungBoy, where for the songs that are neither the best nor the worst and won't crack the top 40, 7 Days at 100, Kamikaze at 88, oh this was pretty rough all things considered, Top Sound at 86, Hold Your Own at 83, Lost Soul Survivor at 75, Freedom 5s at 68, Fuck the Industry at 63, and I Know at 46. And that makes this a slightly more reasonable list of new arrivals, starting with number 98, Despecha by Rosalia. You know, Now, considering that Rosalia actually dropped an album this year, you would think she'd actually push a few more songs from it, rather than this unattached single, but hey, I guess if you're looking for a way to snag some quick TikTok virality, this is the way to do it. Because this song absolutely feels built for TikTok. The sandy percussion, the chintzy piano, the single verse, the weirdly cheap sounding vocal mixing, pretty sparse dance vibes, but with the undercurrent of a kiss-off to some ex, and the song runs under 3 minutes. This feels custom built for that app. And I guess it's fine, but even on Motomami, Rosalia was doing more interesting things than this, which this just feels generally catchy but kind of undercooked. Really disposable. Next, number 96, Big 14 by Trippie Redd, Moneybagg Yo, and Offset.
Bitch, we slice your throat. Yeah, brand new red fit, got a cloak, look like a ghost. Yeah, on the yacht, let's have a toast, cause I'm the GOAT.
Serious question, at this point, is there anyone left checking for Trippie Redd? I thought he was gonna have a much bigger breakthrough last year than what actually stuck around, and now with this new song, you can argue it's charting more because of its features than Trippie Redd himself. I mean, it certainly doesn't have anything to do with Trippie Redd's nasal drawl, where he sounds checked out and unable to sell any menace in his threats and flexing, especially with some of those shouted ad-libs on his one verse. But Moneybagg Yo can't do much with this either, especially with that awkward, attempted change up midway through the verse, and the goopy synths behind the brittle percussion can't build any potency. I would say Offset delivers the best performance, but it's a pretty stock Migos verse. It's pretty interchangeable. So no, it's just more forgettably mediocre than bad. I'll forget this exists in record time. Let's move on. Number 90, My Time by YoungBoy Never Broke Again.
They want me for the news. Know that they were pressing, they was trying to find clues. I popped out, now I'm the news.
You know, credit where it's due, even if there's something about the vocal overdubs and the reverb that kind of remind me a little bit of Burna Boy, with the spare clinking percussion against the echoing guitars, it's a good backdrop for YoungBoy, and he delivers a pretty solid hook here. But more than that, if you dig into the bars, there's a better sense of melancholy beyond all the unstable rage you would expect. He's dejected that he has to keep on hustling and shooting to provide for his family, roots of his conflict in and out of jail going back to his childhood, where he's trying to break this cycle, but he's conscious of so many who can't. And even then, what's the cost with all that lingering pain and depression that he cannot get past? No, this isn't new for the genre. Polo G in particular does this a lot better, but with a good hook and YoungBoy's very haggard delivery, I would say this works. And while we're here, number 47, Home Ain't Home by YoungBoy Never Broke Again, featuring Rod Wave.
Like the ones who I know love me, all gone.
Look, I don't know how much of an album bomb Rod Wave could potentially have next week, but getting him alongside YoungBoy is kind of a steal. They work well together, and they make the most of it here. The gentle guitar roll against the pianos, against the slight snaps and trap percussion, Rod Wave hitting the balance of gunplay and angst that you kind of expect from him. But I actually think YoungBoy steps up the most here in his angst that despite his hustle, the home doesn't feel the same, thanks to isolation from his family, his drug addiction, and the cycle that will likely see it all happen again, especially that he's resigned to death in that same place. I don't know, when YoungBoy gets more coherent and sober and can actually take stock of his life, he can get to a pretty real place, which might be the big reason I don't throw up my hands despite so much of his bullshit year after year. But yeah, this is really damn good. I like this too. Number 37, by YoungBoy Never Broke Again. On the other hand, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that the YoungBoy song that charted the highest is one of his most vicious, manic, and slapdash in the early section of the album, where the hook is more mouth noises than bars off the arranged menace and the trap sounds. And as a hook, I'm sorry, it's a misstep, especially given how wild YoungBoy's hollering gunplay is on the verses. It feels barely composed, genuinely unstable, the sort of thing where even if the mixing's rough, you kind of want to keep listening to see what vocal flourish he pulls out next. I mean, it's certainly messy. I kind of get why it works though, even if the hook's a dud, so not really good, not bad either. But I'm leaning on the negative. Number 10, Bad Decisions by Benny Blanco, BTS, and Snoop Dogg. I want you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, baby, every night. This is the sort of collab that feels like record executives threw names into a blender for whatever might come out. But the funny thing is that in recent years, Benny Blanco's pop songs have been remarkably tolerable, and I was curious where the hell he would take working with BTS and Snoop Dogg. And, you know, I feel I should like this, but I'm lukewarm at best. Snoop Dogg is in his terminally lazy pop verse mold. Benny Blanco's disco gloss feels muted to the point of never really popping off. And while BTS can sell Lovesick in their sleep, and there's some pretty good interplay between the members, I'm used to them bringing a little more flair to these songs. Maybe it's the very basic melody driving the song, or how the lockstep percussion never really snaps, but this should have more to it. Everyone here can do better. Speaking of which, number 5, Staying Alive by DJ Khaled featuring Drake and Lil Baby.
I'm staying alive, I'm staying alive, I'm staying alive, I'm staying alive. Another one. Yeah.
At this point, DJ Khaled making music with Drake has to be a tax write-off in some label agreement, because there's absolutely no excuse for this to keep on happening. They've routinely brought out the worst in each other for years now, and this might be some of their most egregious. If you're gonna interpolate one of the most iconic songs from disco, widely hailed as a classic, maybe sound like you care, but I'm not even sure I can get past this god-awful instrumental, which crushes the lead into slurry and drops this cheap leaden percussion that might be the opposite of a groove, which allows Drake to meander into his usual empty paranoia and is complaining that this girl isn't coming over as much as even though she says she loves him. But wait, not only does he not know what he wants, apparently he's rich enough that she's already there, and maybe he's trading her back and forth with Lil Baby. Who knows and who cares? Lil Baby at least tries to establish some continuity, but apparently she's just as flighty with all of this even as he's buying her things. But what happened to his diction? He's slurring more than he did 4 years ago. So yeah, it's been a while since we got a song with the potential to be a hit that sucks this much. But yeah, this is crap in the least interesting way possible. And yeah, obvious, worst of the week. With dishonorable mention going to by YoungBoy Never Broke Again for just some shaky mastering and kind of a bad hook that just cannot pay off the verses. That song should have gone a lot harder than it does. But you know what? YoungBoy's actually getting in the top spots too, with Home Ain't Home with Rod Wave as the best of the week, and My Time as the honorable mention. Again, YoungBoy is capable of making good music. I will say it again. I just wish he was a lot more consistent, and that he didn't put out 30-song albums. Next week, it's going to be a toss-up between Megan Thee Stallion and Rod Wave for that album bomb, plus that big new single from Nicki Minaj that's being hyped to the millions. We'll have to see. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.